Hey guys, Andrew P here from the Seven Figure Fitness Business Podcast. Today's episode 50, so it's an exciting milestone for us. And I wanted to start off the episode by just, genuinely saying thank you so much for your support. If you're a listener of the show, whether it's someone who's been listening for a long time or since the beginning, or someone who's just been checking us out as of recently, thank you so much from Andrew G, Iggy, and myself. We really do appreciate the support, and fingers crossed you've taken a lot of value and it's really helped you in your own life and business. To this point, we've had some really awesome guests on the show, and we've also had some really amazing discussion topics, and we have some really, really exciting things that we're planning for 2022 and also for our next 50 episodes. For today, to celebrate our first 50 episodes, we thought it'd be really cool to make a little bit of a mashup of some of our favorite pieces from some of our favorite episodes, putting them together so that you can get that kind of refresher and recap on some of those things. So thank you again for the support. I hope you enjoy this episode. And as always, if you do like the show and you haven't liked and subscribed or given us a review on your listening or watching platform, we'd really appreciate that. Thanks guys, and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome. And these four different Hey everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of Seven Figure Fitness Business with your hosts. I'm Andrew Poulton.
Andrew Gosen. This podcast is for you if you're a personal trainer, if you own a gym and you're looking at going online, or if you've currently got an online business that is, not really established, you're looking at taking it to 6, 7, 8 figures for anyone who wants to be on the online space. And the reason why we're here talking to you guys is we want to help you. We've got this incredible story to share about how we've gone from zero to a business that's on its way to being 8 figures. And, we want to share this with you so you don't make the same mistakes that we have made along the way. You can get there faster. And for me, that comes down to, one of the things that's really important to me is being a provider. And I want to, help business owners. I'm so passionate about business, and I want to help business owners be able to help more people, to create impact and to support their families better.
Basically, what we've been able to achieve in the last 3 years is to have a business now that we created from nothing, which is doing multiple 7 figures. But also we are business coaches and mentors for fitness business owners as well, with another business called Systems by Design, where we're helping people like you, our listeners, who are either wanting to go online or you're already online but are struggling with different aspects like the marketing, the sales, or the fulfillment. So a big part of why we're doing this is to help you get there faster and avoid all of our mistakes, as G said. We're going to be discussing for the audience what we have observed as being the 4 common traits of our very most successful mastermind members. Now, to put it in context, these are the people that in 6 months basically get their business to high 6 figures or even 7 figures based on their monthly run rates.
And these 4 different traits that we're going to talk about are things that they all have in abundance. And just in general, successful people all have similar characteristics.
Yeah, what I've found is that the vast majority of people, and I really mean that, the vast majority of people have access to all of these traits. It's just a matter of whether they actually choose to implement them into their lives and into their work culture and ethic. The first one is something that we've discussed before, and it's something you've taught me how to do in the extreme, but it's fearlessness. So seeing as this is kind of like one of your really strong traits, why don't you break down why you think that this is so important for people to be successful?
I think, you mentioned it there, AP, and I don't want to talk myself up too much, but it's definitely something that was built into me being a former professional poker player, right? I think in poker is a game of skill, but in the short term, it can be a game of luck. And what you're doing in poker is you're always looking for an edge. So if you've got a 51% chance of winning a hand, you still got a 49% chance of losing, right? Now, if you make that play a million times at 51%, you become a very, very wealthy person. However, if you play that once and you lose,
Yeah.
There's a lot of money that can disappear. And the way I think of fearlessness is being able to find those edges and put the money in, right? Now, I'm not talking about all your money, but you want to make continuous small investments that are correct. And sometimes in business, you'll find things that are 95% favorable in your direction, and you just keep on doing the same thing over and over. There doesn't necessarily have to be an element of gamble. Now, people's success is generally going to come down to a large portion of it is going to be their tolerance to risk, feeling comfortable knowing that there is a chance that they could lose. There's a chance that they could actually fail. And it's also learning what's going to be successful and what's going to fail and making those decisions over and over again, because failing is a very, very good thing. And being fearless and confident and enjoying failure is all part of the game.
Let's go into the next point now. And this is something that this one probably isn't going to blow anyone away, but it's so incredibly important and people fail this on a regular basis. And that's the ability to take consistent action and to actually do it with focus. In other words, to make sure that you ignore all of that 1% stuff that doesn't matter, get all the crap out of your brain that kind of clogs you up and focus on the step-by-step path, right? So your ability to act on the information that you're given is absolutely vital to your success.
I think the two of these really, they overlap. And the reason is when you know your numbers, you're able to make logical decisions and you can make those decisions with certainty. And as I said in poker, if I know I'm a 51% favorite, I'm jumping in there. I'm having a bet. And in business, a lot of the time you find yourself in situations where there's a decision you perceive to be 95% favorable and you lose 5% of the time. It's just like certainty, all in on that one. We're going to take what we can get.
Yeah. Even when we dashboard though, I mean, the way that the business works is typically, we talk about the term bottlenecks all the time, right? So what we're essentially doing here is we're looking, well, what's the goal? And at what stage of that process are things kind of clogging up? Where are they not working? And once we find out where those clogs are, where those bottlenecks are, that allows us to apply focus. Now, for a new mentee in our program or even someone else in business who isn't in one of our programs, that may be creating a system that doesn't even exist. For people that are more advanced, it might be analyzing your system based on the numbers and saying, well, hang on a second, there's like the flow of leads or the flow of sales or conversions here, it doesn't add up. And then you're able to apply your focus and your action towards that specific thing. So that's what I mean by focus. It's knowing what to work on based on the analysis that you're doing as well that really makes a difference. Any successful person in business needs to consistently practice honest, open, and effective communication. And if we talk about what makes the difference between a good mentee and a bad mentee, good mentors and bad mentors, it's that factor. So let's say, for example, if someone joins our program and they feel confused, overwhelmed, they have problems. Is that abnormal? No. It would be very strange not to have problems, not to have questions, right? That's why you join a mastermind, or that's why you get help. What happens is some people will just kind of, hello, I need help. And they'll ask once. And then after they get advice, if they're not happy with it, they just kind of they just sort of melt into their chair. The best members are the ones who ask us the most questions, who get the most consistent advice. And your success in any business venture, really in anything you do, is your ability to get clear communication and advice from people that have already done what you're looking to do.
Exactly. Any coaching program that you do, you need feedback. There needs to be a feedback loop. If you just go at it on your own, you're just doing a course, you're not getting mentorship. And if something in your ads isn't working and you've gone through the whole course and you don't know why, having that external set of eyes going, this is the problem, change this, do that. But it is tough. Like if you don't come and ask for help and you don't request that advice, how is it that we're supposed to know? Like it's all good and well. Like we check in on all of our members regularly, but we'll check in with someone and they may not even tell us there's a problem.
Having charisma and likability. Now, most people, I think there's a scale of this, like 99 people out of 100 are absolutely fine when it comes to this, because if you remember our first videos when we started HyperBT, and they looked like shit. We were in like dark rooms. The videos were crap. We didn't have teleprompter apps. So we were like stuttering all the time, but people liked that stuff. And the reason is because we were honest. we were raw, and we were vulnerable, and we had a story that people could relate to. So you don't have to be perfect to have likability and charisma. You just have to be able to communicate at a basic level and be passionate about something, right?
You have to be able to communicate like you do in real life. Like most of the people in our program have at one time trained people in person or coached people in person. Mm-hmm. And people have come to you and you've been a successful trainer in the past and there's a reason. You just have to be able to show that when you're on camera. And the thing about this is that's a learned response. Like even for myself, I view this as something that I've struggled with over the years, that I haven't been the best. And now it's just became a mission of mine, just become better and better and better. And like I do presentation coaching because I want that third external set of eyes of someone reviewing my videos and telling me how I can actually improve them.
Yeah. So like if one of our friends, for example, was to see some of those videos, they'd probably laugh because, you always look stiff as a board. But when it comes down to it, your story was so strong and so solid that people were still obsessed with you and what you were telling them. And I think like this loops again into fearlessness, but having the courage to put something out there and then work on improving it, that's really what it's all about. So it's just vulnerability, I guess I should say likability and charisma. The most important element there, really, it's not being the best communicator in the world. Like you don't have to be like a T. Robbins or something like that. You just have to have like a really great story and be honest and vulnerable about your situation and your passion. I know like one of the things that was huge when it came to Hypo was ultimately we had a very manual process for reviewing food diaries. And so what we quickly created to alleviate that was a food diary review system that was called the highlighting system. And it was really just based on some simple things where whether it was us doing it or our staff, and of course we wanted to transition to our staff doing it as quickly as possible so that, I could focus on the sales and you could focus on the marketing. But really it just taught them how to run a system. So it made it easier to hire, easier to train, and then easier to deliver that advice from our coaches to our clients. That was a huge change, and then we improved it even more recently with your Loom review system, where we can basically give a really good review of someone's food diary in I think it's about 3 minutes or 4 minutes that it averages per person. That's insane leverage. Whereas it used to take bloody ages to do that, and it didn't feel very personalized. We've been able to get improvements there in results, that feeling of connection between us and our members, but also just time. So, it's a huge system that had a great impact for us.
Yeah. I think these systems have to be of quality, right? There's all very well bringing in a system, but at the same time, it actually has to get equal results to you giving up your time. And I think that was one of the issues when we first introduced, originally, the traditional way is you call up every single client, you speak to them for half an hour, you waste all of your time, right? But, I think the first thing we implemented was reviewing people's food diaries. But when we were reviewing them via text, and we were messaging back our feedback, that wasn't quite good enough as us giving up our actually calling them on the phone. So what happens when that happens? What happens is people, they don't pay you. They put you in complaints about the program because the perceived value is less. But as soon as we implemented something like the Loom videos, which just to explain, it's pretty much where we record a video of a screen share of us giving feedback of the food diary, just like we're next to them. They see a big, the trainer's big smiling face, talking to them and, motivating them. No longer do we actually need to call people anymore. We can just rely on the fact that we've got a system that is actually better, because calling someone takes up a lot of time. You've got to schedule the call. Both people have to show up, things have to be on time. And by the all said things said and done, if you schedule a 15-minute call with a client per week, it's even, 15 minutes it's more like half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah. They're turning into therapy sessions if you don't know what you're doing. Turn into hour-long conversations.
You're just talking about the weather, right?
Yeah. What I loved about this is, systems break and they're not bulletproof. But, when you create a system like that, only, a couple of people sort of slip through. And then what that actually means, because you've actually got that well-leveraged system, you can actually give more attention to the people that are really struggling. They feel like they're sinking. We use that in fitness. We use it in the mastermind as well. We have mastermind, systems that allow us to help the members on a really high level. But if someone is struggling, we notice that we can really shift a huge amount of resources in the form of time and support to make sure that they get the help they need. I love that about systems because it helps you identify people that are doing well with the system and those who aren't, because there's a consistency. You can see results, and you get to almost benchmark those results and really, people that are struggling, and sometimes you will struggle. Those people stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you have like proper systems in place, it allows you to eliminate human error, right? As much as possible. You're never going to eliminate human error because systems break. Like even with us, some of our systems like break all the time. It's so annoying. But even then, when it does break, we know what to fix. And oftentimes it's a quick fix. It's fine tuning, it's updating certain things and making sure certain procedures are up to date as the business grows and evolves. Whereas like when you have systems that are heavily dependent on manual work from the individual, then you're subject to somebody having a bad day. You're subject to somebody like forgetting to do stuff. You're subject to all these different things. So that's why when you have a proper system in place that you eventually start to outsource and you start to grow your team, having those systems in place allow you to be able to really minimize the amount of human error and then the number of variables you have to account for. Right
Cool.
now, instead of creators creating things from scratch, they're just coaching clients through your system. They're supporting clients through your system. They're supporting clients through this mechanism that you built, versus them having to recreate the wheel and you having to worry about them doing something wrong or forgetting to include something or things like that.
If you don't have systems in place, as soon as you want to go away on a holiday or you're sick, everything breaks straight away. So it's so critical to have some form of leverage. Otherwise, your business literally halts. It comes to a screeching stop.
This is going deep because we in ourselves, most of us, even me, we feel that we're not good enough as we are. And nobody would want to buy my stuff as I am because I'm not good enough. It's a deep-seated insecurity. I'm going to piss so many people off with saying this too. But it's like, but if I look at it and we actually call ourselves out, I can just imagine all the egos like just being wrung by me saying this. But like I look back on like me like a couple of years ago, like I used to embellish my stats. I used to try and make myself look better because I thought, oh, well, I'm only making 10K a week. It's not good enough. It should be 15K a week or 12K or whatever it is, and embellish myself and make myself seem better. I'm not good enough at 8% body fat. I've got to be 6%. And we have this internal thing where we tell ourselves that we're not good enough as we are. And when we don't accept ourselves as we are, if we aren't proud of ourselves as who we are and we don't love ourselves for who we are, then of course we're going to go put out some inauthentic because we think that's what's good enough. We have this ideal of what's good enough. We're so busy living in the future and not in the now and not in the current time that we have to embellish. It's not that we even have a choice. We have to. And so the real solution to this is, first of all, here's the most hippie thing I've ever said online, is just love yourself, right? Give yourself some fucking love and know that you're actually good enough as you are. And that if you're authentic and you're actually someone who's good, you're someone who does work really hard at what you do. You do genuinely love what you're doing. You're following your passion. You're doing these sorts of things and you're all about it. What you're putting out will be good enough, right? It certainly will be good enough, and you are good enough to attract people. You've just got to learn to accept yourself for who you are and push that out. When you do that, then you'll have far more success than ever, even if the version of who you are isn't as good as this make-believe version that you want to create.
Yeah. There's a large element from your style of actually creating such a powerful foundation in yourself, right? It's getting your mind. You got to get happy with who you are, because otherwise your platform for building everything else becomes very shaky. Now, you mentioned the spirituality aspect, which, I don't believe with you is necessarily like religion per se, but what do you do in that regard to really get your mind as strong as it is?
Definitely not religion. All right. Yep. Definitely not religion. But in terms of making your mind as strong as possible, here's the easiest ways to start doing that is, first of all, this is one of my favorite exercises. First of all, think of all the negative self-talk that you have to yourself, that we all have in our head. We always get it. We say, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're too fat, you're too this, you're too that, nobody would ever love you, nobody would ever care about you. All that sort of stuff. It always happens. Even when you're in the gym and you're lifting heavy, that little voice kicks in. It's like, you're going to miss this. You're going to fail, right? You're going to do that. We've all had that before. So when you look at that voice, Then what I want you to do is I want you to go get a photo of yourself as a baby, right? And I want you to go and say all those same words to yourself as a baby. The really interesting thing is you can't. Can you imagine saying that shit to a beautiful, like just newborn, fresh child? Like even any sort of child, can you imagine saying that to a kid? Like that would just be so f***ed up. Here's the thing, you're still that person. Like that's you. Like there's a photo of you right in front of you from when you're a kid. Like going through and like looking at that kid and you look at that with nothing but love and like looking at it is like, you're fucking awesome. That's how we should be speaking to ourselves. And so if we can start speaking to ourselves as we would when we're a kid and we just get rid of the rest of the just leave it alone, like push it to the side, that'll be the first thing that'll make you realize you'll actually feel all, warm and wholesome when you go and do this. You'll feel really, really nice when you do that. But doing that, first of all, you will feel good. You will stop giving yourself such a hard time. You will become less insecure. You will become much more secure within yourself and much, much happier. And then when you start doing that, first of all, you'll stop judging others. You'll stop giving others such a hard time and having your conceptions and judgments onto them. And then from there, your confidence will skyrocket because you actually like yourself for who you are. For all your flaws, here's the fun fact. No one's perfect.
How do you guys actually break down these sorts of issues and sort of start taking action? What's the mindset or what's the thought pattern when you go into a process like this? When you see something in the business that the result isn't what we want and you go all the way back to the source and start breaking that down into action steps?
What I always do is I break things down into numbers. So we know precisely what our no-show rate is. I think at our very worst week, it was 41%. But what broke down that 41%, right? So we know that on top of that, we had 20% of people who are bad fits. We know on top of that, there was 10% of people who canceled their calls. And what we do is we effectively make all of these changes inside of the business and we see what impact that has on a week-to-week basis. And, if we're able to track that, we kind of see that, hey, the no-shows went down to 35%. And this is what we do in our weekly Monday morning team meeting. We get out the numbers, the team reviews it, and then I say, okay, well, we got down to 35%. I want to keep on, what we did last week seemingly worked. Let's double down a little bit further and keep working on the brand and, building it. And it's what I like to call brand equity, because brand isn't like you have brand or you don't. It's something that you're continuously building on throughout the duration of your program. So, for us, one of the big things that we've done during this time is we've brought on a branding specialist, a full-time staff member whose sole job is just effectively to be creating content, sending out emails, writing posts, creating infographics, and making sure that our message is being communicated extremely, extremely clearly. So basically, it's a numbers game. If you understand the numbers of your business, you're able to make changes that impact it, see results, and repeat.
This has been a huge thing. I've noticed this change in the business since you started the dashboarding. So dashboard effectively is where you have a spreadsheet that kind of maps out every single layer. It talks about ad spend, cost per lead, and it's got cost per conversation, cost per booking, cost per show up, cost per sale. And because every single step of that and the way that G or Iggy do that in their businesses, what it means is that at any one week, they can analyze not just based on that particular week itself, but they can look at the past and they can make a decision based on that analysis. Well, we get an idea of sort of averages and what they usually should be. So we were able to, diagnose that the no-show rate is going up. But if you get to a point where in any one week you can see that something's actually started to change, it has made it easier to sort of start isolating the variables. And it's had a really positive impact. That is something I know that is a part of the mastermind, right? Is that you actually teach the members how they can diagnose and sort of break down problems through the numbers as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And, those are my sessions that I do, my group sessions that I do with most of our members. It's the one-on-ones that we book in. Well, how do the numbers that you've got impact the business? Because a lot of the time people at the fact that they've got no shows and they'll go, oh, the system isn't working, right? No, the system's identical for every single person who's in the program. The difference between people who have high no-show rates and low show rates is the branding.
And that's where I think our process is very similar, AJ, as far as like, diagnosing those problems. The most important thing is having one variable that you're manipulating at a time. And this is the biggest problem that a lot of clients run into. They're trying to make so many changes at the same time. They have no idea what's actually working. Whereas like, if you know your numbers and you're like, okay, well, even if you're just learning how to diagnose these issues and learning how to analyze these numbers for the first time, if you focus on just manipulating one variable, then you know if there was a change, right, the following week, and you look at your numbers like, well, this was the only thing that I changed, right? All right, let me continue with this the next week and see if there's a pattern, right? Did this have this kind of impact on the business? I changed this, and then these were the numbers. All right, so let me just leave everything the same, right? That variable that I changed last week, let's move it into this week and see if it has the same kind of positive impact. When you start focusing on really addressing one thing at a time, then you can start to see the cause and effect of the thing that you're manipulating, right? Whereas a lot of people make an amateur mistake of trying to fix everything at the same time. And then even if it does work, you have no idea why it worked or what caused it to work or what you can do to replicate it. So when you run into a different kind of problem, you're trying to change everything as well. And then you're like, well, I can't figure out why this isn't working anymore.
If there was like a place where I can have some unbiased reviews of people's experiences, that would be amazing. And so I literally just started the group Fit Pro Mentorship Review, and I set it up. I garnered a lot of attention right away, shared it with a couple of big names in the industry, and they were really supportive and they spread it out. And the funny thing is, a bunch of people from that same cohort, from that same mentor, ended up coming in the group and leaving similar reviews about their experiences as I did. So it was really comforting to know that there's other people out there who are sharing the same experience that I had. And then I'm not this like one-off person who just happened to be massively overcharged and under-delivered upon signing up for the program. So the group was really just set up initially as just a really safe space for people to openly talk about their experiences with mentors, courses, anything that could be sold to Fit Pros. And I was still running my business at the time, so I kind of just let it do its thing. I was moderating a little bit. I would approve people every once in a while when they requested to join the group. And the group grew really steadily, organically throughout the years as I was just continuing to run my fitness business.
It's crazy. Like I used to be a member of that group before, obviously, when I went into the business coaching sort of space.
Yeah.
And the way that I learned about the group was another guy in a coaching program that I was in told me about it. And he said, look at the reviews that our mentor was getting, right? And it's just really like, I think there's a huge element of word of mouth of people learning about your group that way.
Yeah, exactly. And it always comes up because someone in some group will be like, hey, has anybody worked with this person? And then someone will be like, hey, join AJ Morton's group, Fit Pro Mentorship Review. That's the only place where you can get unbiased reviews. And so that happens a lot, which is great. And it's by design. It's what I want to have happen. I want people talking about people before they hire them. Like, I can't believe so many people, even now, are just jumping into programs without a whole lot of social proof other than what's being given to them by the person that they're about to give their money to.
One of the points that is so important here to point out is the reason it is such a great independent review site is because you specifically do not allow any mentors in there. If you find someone in there, you kick them out, and it's kind of like they're up to something shady. And the way I see it is that there's two types of mentors. There's those that are absolutely terrified of your group and what's being said about them, and with good reason. And then there's those that are really happy that it exists. And I think it's such an important thing to have an independent review of the industry. Otherwise, people can get away with having an amazing sales process, an amazing marketing process, but a terrible delivery on those promises.
And that's exactly kind of what you're seeing in the industry is excellent marketers, really great marketers pouring endless amounts of money into their marketing campaigns and taking people's really hard-earned money and then really, really dropping the ball on delivery. And are we allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Not really like giving a shit about the client and about their results and about the money that they were just paid. Like, I can't tell you the stories I hear. Like, I remember talking to this one new member of mine who reached out to me, who was in a similar program that we all know about. And he's like, hey, look, I just got out of the Army, first of all. So he was serving our country. And I just gave my last $10,000 in my Roth IRA to this program. Yeah. And it was terrible. And I got on a 30-minute free call with him like I do with all my members if they want. And he said, AJ, that 30 minutes was way more valuable than the $10,000 in 90 days I just spent with this other guy. And that to me is like the entire issue with the industry. It just should not be the case. I'm not a business coach. Like what I have to say should not be more valuable than what you're getting for $10,000 in a 90-day program.
I think what happens with a lot of these guys is they start off with business coaching business and they might be helping one or two people, but then they start to systemize these people and they're chasing more and more money. And as soon as they want more money, what happens is the quality of the program diminishes because they don't have the systems and the support to actually keep on providing for those customers. It's one thing to have consulting and talk to someone one-on-one. If you're following someone's success, that's really easy to do. But actually to have a system, a program that gets people results without specifically having one-on-one sessions all the time is going to be is massive, right? And that's what I see personally. A lot of these guys is they just don't have the systems in place.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And you're right. It always happens at scale. Whenever they're trying to scale, that's when things start to kind of fall apart. I'm very friendly with lots of mentors, especially the one that I promote within the group, because I personally vet them to make sure that I can put my name behind them. But what's happening worse than just like not having the systems is that they like truly don't care about the client. Because even though they don't have the systems, like for me, if I built something too fast, my customer service would be on point because I still want people to be happy. And it's not their fault that my systems aren't in place the way that they should be. But the way that in the group, people are posting screenshots of conversations with these guys and the customer service is absolutely terrible. In my opinion, the customer service speaks to really figuring out why the mentor is really in the industry, right? If I drop the ball, my customer service is going to show you that I still care about you and that I'm here for the right reasons. But what we're seeing with a lot of these kind of sham mentors and people who are just in the space for the money is that once you pay them $10K, it's kind of like you're working for them. God forbid you need a link that you can't find or a document that's sent to you or a cheat sheet that's sent to you. And the rudeness that happens in these conversations and just like the lack of responsibility is jaw-dropping. And just like it shows an incredible disdain and lack of respect for the fitness industry and fitness coaches. Like we're all here to make an impact, but these guys are just really here to make money. And it's very obvious. They don't really try and hide it.
Well, when you look at the average income of someone in the fitness industry, it's often not that high. And for these people charging programs that are high ticket in the coaching space, 5 figures at least, that can be that person's life savings, or it might be that they don't even have that. Like you said, you have to get multiple credit cards to do it. So it isn't a decision that should be taken lightly without at least understanding that you have. I think the goal of any program should be that it helps you get a return on investment, but also it helps you avoid really like key mistakes and get to your goal faster and with a much greater level of certainty. Now, it's not to say that any program is going to be able to provide 100% because there's 2 elements here. There's the program and the mentors, and then there's also the participant of the program. So obviously the job of the mentor needs to be to do everything that they can in the delivery and the systemization and the support that's delivered so that that customer, that Fit Pro can, as long as they do their part, they're going to have a lot of success.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube or on the appropriate podcasting platforms, and we'll see you next time.